The reason I'm making this video here, it's because I've got a lot of clients here that are actually asking me to go over the contract with them, but I've noticed a lot of people work different hours and things of that nature. So what I want to do is go ahead and make this video that you can watch in your own time. And then if you have any questions, please contact me directly and we can go ahead and talk over that. But understanding this contract before we go out and show houses is going to be very important, because we are going to hit a time where we're going to find a house, it's going to have multiple offers on it, and we're going to have to make a decision on writing an offer within a matter of like an hour, and then I have to go back, draft that offer, and then you guys need to sign it and submit it. And I've submitted offers between showing times to submission. The time gap on that could be 2 hours, sometimes an hour and a half. So I'd rather you guys be comfortable with this document, understand it completely, or at least for the most part, and then you'll be more comfortable knowing that you made the right decision versus, signing off on something you've never seen before in your life and, really questioning if you made the right choice. The anxiety behind that is one of the worst things ever. I've dealt with that before I got into real estate, and I never want any of my clients to be in that situation. So what I want to do is go over this thing real fast, and if you have questions, please let me know. So what's in bold is going to be a paragraph. On the side, we've got line numbers. So paragraph 1, line 1, the parties, right? We're just going to go ahead and mention the buyer's name, John and Jane Doe in our example, and the sellers are first and last name, first and last name. Now, in my example, we're going to go ahead and purchase the real estate. It's about 5 acres of land, 123 Main Street, Lake Villa. It is a single family detached home, so we're going to check this box. If it's a multi-unit, we're going to check that. If it's a townhome or an apartment, we're going to go ahead and check in attached. This is like a social security number for the house. Don't worry about that, but we're going to go ahead and look that up ourselves. Now, in my example here, before I go on any further, this example is going to be 123 Main Street. It is not a real address. I'm just using that as an example. We're going to purchase this home for $200,000. And yeah, I'll go and give more of an example later on as we go along with the contract here. So line 15, paragraph 3 is the fixtures. Every home typically comes with a refrigerator, oven, range. You get the idea, microwave, dishwasher, what have you. So when it applies, I'm going to go ahead and put an X mark here. So when we do move into the property and we sign off on it, we do know that the house comes with a refrigerator, microwave, dishwasher, et cetera, all these things that come with it. Even something as simple as a ceiling fan. I want to make sure that we write that in. I've had people move before, take the garage transmitters with them. Hey, if we say we're getting them, right? So I want to make sure that you have everything. People are weird. They will pull out smoke detectors if we don't write it into the contract. It saves someone, $20 at Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever they go. People will pull out, I don't know, water softeners, so they don't have to bring it to their next home. You get the idea. People do pull things out. So whatever is here, it will come with the home. People do pull out plants and bushes too. You'd be surprised. I've seen it before. So you want to make sure we do our due diligence and mark it here. Now, if there's anything on the list that's not, pre-filled in for us, such as other items included at note value. Let's say, for example, this home comes with a projector unit and a screen in the theater room, a home theater, right? There's no option for it up here. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and type that in. So in my example for 123 Main Street, we don't want them taking out a fixture, because technically a fixture is defined by something that is attached to the property that's not easily removable, such as personal property. In this case, we don't want them pulling out the theater. We don't want them pulling out the screen. We want to make sure that that is a selling point with the home. Now, if there are other items not included on line 30, maybe they had a wall-mounted clock in the kitchen. They just screwed it into the wall. It's got some sentimental value. The sellers have set the expectation, hey, we are not selling this with the house, so I'm going to go ahead and write that in and say, hey, come in move-in day, that kitchen clock is not going to be there because, they've already set that expectation up front. So this way, the more descriptive we are, I know it sounds real stupid, but the more descriptive we are, the better of an experience it's going to be for everyone. Transparency is key. Then on top of that, personal property as well. They're going to pull out their bed, TVs, et cetera. So I always go ahead and write that in. Item 31, and I promise you this will go so much faster once we get past the first 2 pages. The seller warrants to the buyer that all fixtures, systems, and personal properties included in the contract shall be in operating condition at possession, except, and I always say no exceptions, if something is installed at a certain time, I want it to be working. Now, for some reason, if you guys decide to buy a house with a non-working wash machine because you think you could fix it, well, okay, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and write in except the washing machine. You get the idea. So, but normally I write in no exception. So when we move in, if we do a home inspection, the stove is working, we move in, it doesn't work. Obviously, this is going to protect us, and we have to make sure that they go ahead and fix it or credit us or whatever the case may be to remedy that situation. Line 35, home warranty applies. I always protect my buyers with a home warranty. I'll cover that a little later, but we do check this box and we'll revisit it in paragraph 32. All right, things are going to start going a little bit faster now. Purchase price and payment. So in my example, it's a $200,000 home. We're going to ask the sellers to provide a seller agrees to credit for $1,000 to the buyer at closing to be applied for prepaid expenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's say if it costs us, 15 grand with your down payment, title fees, attorney fees, whatever, we're just going to go ahead and bring a check that day for $14,000 because the seller is going to go ahead and provide us with $1,000. Now, earnest money. Earnest money is completely optional, but I call it good faith money. Typically, buyers provide earnest money, and we've already had that conversation if you're watching this video. So $2,000 will be provided 3 business days after the date of acceptance. Please do not wait on this. I have had a client in the past null and void their contract because they were waiting for a convenient day for them. They said, hey, I'm going to show up to the brokerage before they close at 5 on the third day. Well, they got into a car accident, and this whole contract was null and void, and they lost out on their $2,000. So please just bring it on day one, and we'll figure that out ourselves. If you can't make it, I'll personally deliver it for you. All right, things are going to start going a little faster here. Earnest money is going to be held at the seller's brokerage. That's customary, but we can hold it at the buyer's if you want. We can do it wherever we want. Closing date is going to be April 1st in this example. Right now it is December 9th. This is an unrealistic timeline, but I just chose this date, right? And this is going to be relevant. So remember, April 1st is when we're closing. Paragraph 7, we're going to have a financing contingency. If you're not paying cash for this home, we are going to need a contingency. If you cannot get a loan commitment, then we have the option to back out of the house. If you're paying cash, skip this portion. So we're going to go ahead and put in the terms. It's going to be a fixed rate, hypothetically, for this one, a conventional loan, and we're going to put 20% down. So it's going to be 80% of the purchase price, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, not to exceed 3%, which means your interest rate's not going to be any more than 3%. Let's say, for example, your lender says, hey, we're going to give you a rate around 2.5%. Well, the last thing I want to do is put 2.5%. And then, we close 4 or 5 months from now, interest rates go up a little bit because the economy gets better. And now the Fed, the government, says interest rates are at 2.6 now. Well, now you have the right to back out of this contract because we initially put 2.5 because that's what the rates were. So that's why we give ourselves a little leeway. And it also helps out the seller as well, knowing that we can't back out based off like a tenth or 100th of a percent. So that's why we always go a little bit higher here. Not amortized any less than 30 years. So this is going to be a 30-year fixed loan. We're putting 20% down. So the lender is going to give us 80% of the purchase price. 30-year conventional fixed with a 3% loan. Now this is going to be based off whatever you guys qualify for. So once again, we'll already had that conversation, but this is what this portion looks like. I just fill in the blanks. I'm going to go ahead and skip a lot of this. Cash transaction with no mortgage, I'm going to skip. I'm going to go ahead and skip this cash transaction, mortgage allowed. We're not paying cash at this point. And keep in mind, once again, a lot of this we'll have already had that conversation. So a good chunk of this we're going to start skipping. Paragraph 8, statutory disclosures. Now, I always check all these boxes because before we even go take a look at the home, I am going to present you with the property disclosures. Property disclosures, we'll have already had this conversation. What's wrong with the property? Seller has to fill it out. Same with lead-based paint. If the home is older than 1978, we fill this out. If not, well, it's irrelevant. Plus radon. So we've already had this conversation. My point is that I check all this. It makes for a cleaner contract. For the sellers, we want them to pick ours, so I'm going to try to do my best to make sure that our contract stands out and we're not really being a pain on their end. Prorations. Now, I forgot to fill in this portion, but essentially this states, the general real estate taxes shall be prorated to and include the date of closing based on, I put in 105%. The rule of thumb is that real estate taxes jump about 5% every year. So since taxes are paid 1 year in arrears, which means if it's 2020 today, We end up paying 2019 taxes in the year 2020. In the year 2021, we will pay 2020 taxes. So taxes are generally 1 year behind since taxes increase 5% every year. It's not fair that you get stiffed with a bill. So I always make this based out of 105%. Scrolling down a little bit, seller represents, if applicable, et cetera, that there's pretty much a homeowners condominium association. So you might know this is an HOA. This is completely unrealistic. $300 a month, unless it's a luxury community or it's a townhome. But I did say this is a single family home. I filled this out just as a hypothetical here because HOAs do become this high. So if that's the case, this is the section that we fill it out, and the seller and the buyer will agree to some sort of prorated arrangement. So if it's prepaid and we move in on the 1st, and they want to make sure that they paid their bill a couple days prior, well, we are going to have to compensate them for the month, them being the seller, a month worth of the $300 proration, because that's what we, agreed upon. We already covered this as well, attorney review. These are all the rules for the attorney review period. I will definitely walk you through it when the time comes. The attorney will definitely walk you through it when the time comes. And these are just all the rules and regulations. So please, I highly encourage you guys to read all of this, but I'm not going to bore you reading all this to you because I know you guys can read it on your own time. Paragraph 11, if you decide to waive the right to an inspection, you initial here. I never, long day. I never suggest it, but you have the right to do so. Professional inspections, and inspection notices. These are all the rules and regulations behind it. Once again, I'm going to skip all this because you guys can read this on your own time. Paragraph 13, you have to get homeowners insurance. If you are funding a home with a lender, they will require you to do it. I always recommend that you pair it with your car insurance company solely because they will give you some sort of bundle discount, but you have the right to go with whoever you want to go with, and make sure you do this within 10 business days after date of acceptance. So I will hound you about this. Your lender will hound you about this. And if you are in a floodplain, same rules apply for flood insurance. If you're within a condominium, each one has their own rules and regulations. These are the rules in regards to what we have to do about it. This is going to be on a case-by-case basis. So if we ever cross that path, I will let you know what that is about. Then obviously, transfer taxes, things like that. These are just the rules on what kind of taxes we have to pay when we move. Cities, counties, states, they do charge additional taxes when you buy and sell real estate. So that's the rules there. So go ahead and read all this. Lastly, plat of survey. Not less than 1 business day prior to closing, we will make sure that we get a map of what your property lines are. So if you decide to build a fence, for example, for your dog or whatever, you're not encroaching other people's property. And if you see some sort of stranger on your yard, we need to know that they have the right to do so. So for example, if you're sharing a driveway with someone so they can gain access to their house, they have the right to do so. Same with, electricity meter guys, gas meter guys, water meter guys, etc. But if it's not one of those people encroaching on your property, then they're trespassing. So it's important to get some sort of plat of survey, and we know exactly what your property lines are. Now, the rest of this, I'm going to go ahead and skip. What happens, damage to real estate. If there's a fire or something, this explains all the rules on that. Seller representations in paragraph 22, and I know I'm talking really fast. Worst case scenario, I know you can rewind the video. These portions are initialed. So in this example, the sellers are saying that there are not improvements to the real estate, which include with the most tax assessment. So essentially what this is saying is, hey, the sellers are saying, if we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, we did not build that second bathroom, and the county still thinks that we have a 1-bathroom, because once the assessor comes out and takes a look at your home, they recognizes that there are 2 bathrooms. They're obviously going to up your property taxes because they understand that there's more value to it now. If that were the case, and the county thinks that it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and that's what the taxes are going to represent. So the last thing we want is next year's tax bill to spike because it wasn't assessed properly. So that's what this whole section is saying. There are not improvements to the real estate which are eligible for home improvement tax exemptions. There are no unconfirmed pending special assessments affecting the area. And then so this one here states that it is located within a special assessment area. So to give you an example on this, my personal home, right? I live in Lake Villa. Recently, Lake Villa decided to switch from local water to Lake Michigan water. Now, what the city did was they decided to tax the homeowners that are taking advantage of this with like $144 a year or something like that. Now that tax will come to an end at some point in time. I think it's like 15 years. I don't really remember, but I have to disclose that there is that tax. And then on this line here, it's the sellers are saying, hey, we don't know of anything like that that's about to happen. So as long as these disclosures are there, this is what the seller is telling us, and we're going to go ahead and say, hey, we understand that this is what you are saying. And you'll know all this information ahead of time. We're going to have that conversation. But since you are initialing this section, I know this is one of my top questions that a lot of people have. So that's why I'm explaining this portion. Oh, and at the bottom of every page, you're going to initial here. Yeah. So anyways, the rest of this is just rules. Hey, what is a business day? 8 to 6, you get the idea. Electronic signatures, I'm going to go ahead and skip a lot of this. Please read this on your own accord. Paragraph 29, once again. So if we are doing a dual agency, you're giving me consent. We'll just put in the names here. We'll talk about that when the time comes. And then let's say, for example, I know this is not the case for a good chunk of my clients, a home sale contingency, but if for on the off chance you have to sell your home, this is exactly what this says here. Now, if you don't have a home sale contingency, I still recommend you listen to this portion, because this is where you'll understand how you have that much leverage compared to other people. And I think this is really important for you guys to understand. So let's say in this specific scenario, I have to sell 456 Random Street in Antioch in order to buy 123 Main Street, right? So I just changed it up a little bit so it's a little easier. So I initial here saying, hey, I have to sell my house in order to buy your house. So if I can't sell my house, I am no longer going to buy your house, right? Now, a lot of sellers don't want to hear that because they think, oh, okay, great. Well, in order for me to buy my house, I need to sell my house. But now in order for the buyer to buy my house, I'm sure someone else has to buy their house, and the person buying their house, someone else also has to buy their house. So it's a never ending string of, I've seen it go like 13, 14 homes deep, and all it takes is for one person not to get proper financing, whether they lost their job due to COVID or someone lied on an application, who knows what it is. One person can ruin it for 14 families. So this is why this is important to understand. If you don't have a home sale contingency, you can be much more aggressive, at least in my opinion, with your ask, right? So that's kind of the concept there. So let's say we have to sell 456 Random Street. The buyer has to check one box, has not entered into a contract to sell the buyer's house. But if we did, let's say we sold our house and now we're doing some home shopping. We have entered into a contract, right? Then we would say, hey, for example, this home is subject to a mortgage contingency, it's subject to a real estate sale contingency, and it's subject to a closing contingency. So what this is saying is, hey, I want to buy your house. I have someone already willing to buy my house. I have a contract, but in order for me to sell my house, they have to obtain proper financing, so they have a mortgage contingency. They need to sell their home, and they have to close their home. So it's pretty much saying, if I can't do all this stuff, then I am not going to buy the home that I am interested in, 123 Main Street, Lake Villa. So this is just the descriptive portion. I'm not going to bore you anymore with this, but these are just the rules on what happens. Now, furthermore, and I'm just going to cover this last part here real quick. On top of that, this is going to say like, hey, if we can't sell our house by March 1st, 2021, then you have the right to cancel this contract altogether. Now that sucks for the seller, but this is good for us, the buyer, because with it being December 9th, we get some time to find ourselves a buyer, which is fantastic. Now it also says if we don't close on our house by the 1st of April, then we also get to back out and not have to purchase this home. So you can tell this is kind of becoming such a pain that if you don't have to sell a house, you're in a fantastic position. Then lastly, while we're under contract, the seller still has the right to continue to show the home. And essentially what it says is, let's say the sellers accepted an offer for a first-time home buyer. Accepted an offer for someone that has to sell their home, and then you guys roll around who are first-time home buyers that don't have to sell a home. The seller can actually accept that offer and tell the buyers, hey, you guys, the current buyers that have to sell a home, you have 72 hours to get rid of all those contingencies, or we're going to kick it to the curb. And it's called a kick-out clause. So that's essentially what it is. So once again, it's a really good thing to have, not having to sell real estate when trying to buy another home. So that is pretty much the gist of it here. Going back to the home warranty, seller shall provide at no expense to the buyer a home warranty at the cost of hypothetically $600 home warranty company. I have my own vendors that I always recommend. Nothing in it for me. I just think they do a fantastic job, but I don't want to put it in this video. If you have a well and septic system, we're going to go ahead and ask for one of those inspections as well. If you have a VA loan, you require a termite inspection, or if it's just a terrible property and you want to do a home inspection or termite inspection, we're going to go ahead and initial this as well. Possession after closing. If for some reason you and the seller have arranged that, hey, it's going to take us a couple days to move all our stuff out because we're not closing until the 3rd when, we're buying their house on the 1st. Maybe you might come up with some sort of rental agreement for a couple days. Hey, we'll rent it out to you for like $100 a day, whatever the case may be. But in this case, I don't want to do that. And I never recommend that because it can get real messed up. Let's say, for example, you close on the home and then on the 2nd day they have a kitchen fire and then they destroyed your entire property. I know it sounds real hypothetical, but I never recommend it for that reason. So I just write in the date of closing 4/1/2021. If you're buying it as is, you would initial here and understand these agreements. If you have like a court order or something, you need some sort of specified party approval, we would put in who it's by. And then lastly, the attachments. This is the very last portion. If for any reason you have other things that we want to go ahead and place in here, I have other like appraisal clauses and things of that nature. We just go ahead and throw it on this line. So something that I always put in for all my buyers is all garbage and recycle must be removed from the premises, and garbage recycle bins must be empty by final walkthrough. The reason why I put that in there is because I know a lot of times sellers wait until the last day to move out all their stuff, and it can kind of be a pain moving into a home with garbage bins that are full and there's just garbage all over the place, garbage bags on the ground too, and then you have to wait a week or two just to throw away your own garbage, and you're paying the bill for the garbage bill. So I think that's completely unnecessary. So we write it in the initial offer, set that expectation up front. They can make sure that they do their due diligence. If April 1st does not fall on garbage day, they might come back to us and say, hey, let's change the date to the 3rd because garbage day is on the 2nd. So you get the idea. We give them as much warning as possible. The last thing I want you guys to have is an inconvenience. So I think that far ahead for all my clients. And this is what that clause is for and what this portion is for. Yeah, that's pretty much it. From that point forward, date of the offer, you go ahead and sign. You put in your proper information, the current address that you live in. Buyer's brokerage would be my brokerage, and my state credentials and things of that nature, the location, my signature, my email. Your attorney's information is going to be on here as well as your loan officer and the mortgage company. And we put all that information on the side so we can go ahead and give the same information to the seller so we know who to contact at one part of the transaction for what reason. And that is it, guys. That is the entire purchase, contract, etc. Sorry, once again, long day. If you guys have questions, please let me know.